Snoop Dogg disguised as a homeless man exposes police injustice and racism in Central Park. The park was quiet that afternoon, except for the soft rustling of leaves in the wind and the distant hum of traffic. Snoop sat on a worn-out blue bench near the fountain. His hood covered most of his face, and his jacket looked old and torn, like it hadn't been washed in years. Next to him was a crumpled, stained brown paper bag. His shoes, mismatched and scuffed, peeked out from under his jeans. He sat still as a police car slowly pulled into the parking lot. Two officers stepped out, their boots crunching on the gravel as they looked around. One, a young officer with a short haircut and a shiny badge, adjusted his belt and glanced at his partner. An older, stocky man with a tired face and a coffee stain on his uniform. Another homeless guy, the younger officer Ramirez muttered, nodding towards Snoop. This park is turning into a shelter. Let's see what he's up to, his partner, Officer Mendez, said with a sigh. Maybe he's not a problem. They walked toward the bench, their footsteps heavy. Snoop didn't move. You can't stay here all day, Ramirez said sharply. This isn't your home. Snoop slowly lifted his head. His eyes, hidden under the shadow of his hood, didn't give anything away. He didn't answer. Instead, he reached into the brown paper bag beside him. Ramirez tensed, his hand moving toward his baton. Relax, Mendez muttered. Let's not make this worse. But Snoop just pulled out a sandwich, unwrapped it slowly, and took a bite. Didn't you hear me? Ramirez pushed. I asked if you have anywhere to go. Snoop swallowed and calmly replied, I'm not bothering anyone. I'm just eating my lunch. That's not the point, Ramirez said, crossing his arms. People like you make this place look bad. Snoop didn't react. He kept chewing, slow and steady. Mendez sighed. What's your name? He asked. A brief silence. Calvin, Snoop finally said. Calvin Brooks. Ramirez let out a mocking chuckle. Calvin Brooks? What, are you a rapper in your spare time too? Snoop kept eating. The young officer leaned in closer. Let me see your ID. Snoop set his sandwich down, pulled out a worn-out wallet and handed it over. Ramirez examined the ID. It looked legit, but the photo didn't quite match his scruffy appearance. What are you doing here? He asked, shutting the wallet. Why aren't you in a shelter? I like the fresh air. Is that a crime? Mendez glanced at his partner. He's not doing anything illegal. We can't force him to leave. Ramirez narrowed his eyes. Maybe not, but we can make him want to. A couple of passers-by slowed down, watching. Hey, a woman with a dog spoke up. He's not bothering anyone. Ramirez turned to her, his expression hardening. Ma'am, this is none of your business. It's a public park, she shot back. He has as much right to be here as anyone else. Mendez raised a hand, trying to keep the situation calm. Ma'am, we're just doing our job. She shook her head and walked away. Snoop watched her leave, then turned to the officers. Am I free to go? Mendez nodded. You're not under arrest, but maybe you should find somewhere else to sit. Snoop stood up, picked up his bag, and tucked it under his arm. Have a nice day, he said before walking away, calm and steady. Ramirez watched him go, his expression tense. Did you see the way he looked at me? That guy thinks he's better than us. Let it go, Mendez sighed. Not worth the paperwork. But as Snoop walked off, a faint smile crossed his face. This wasn't over. Snoop didn't leave the park. He walked over to another bench, farther from the main area, and sat down. With a subtle motion, he pulled his phone from his pocket and checked the screen. The live stream was still running. He had been recording since the moment the officers approached him. Thousands of people were watching in real time. The chat was flooded with shock, anger, and disbelief. This happens every day. He didn't do anything, and they treated him like a criminal. This is the problem with the system. Snoop smiled faintly. The live stream kept going as the police cruiser made another round through the park. Ramirez spotted him again, and his expression hardened. Him again? Ramirez grumbled. They stopped. I don't trust him, Ramirez muttered. I'm going to find out what he's hiding. Mendez sighed but didn't stop him. Ramirez walked toward Snoop with firm steps. Still here? He asked, his patience clearly running out. Snoop glanced at his phone for a moment before looking up. Since when is sitting on a bench illegal? Ramirez clenched his jaw. Let me see your ID again." Snoop slowly pulled it out and handed it over. Ramirez examined it more closely this time. Then he reached for his radio. "Dispatch, I need a background check on a Calvin Brooks." Silence. Then the response came. "No records under that name." Ramirez's face turned red. "What do you mean, no records?" "There's no match in the system." Mendez ran a hand down his face, exasperated. "That's it. We've got nothing on him." But Ramirez kept his eyes locked on Snoop. "If I was lying," Snoop said calmly, "why didn't you figure it out sooner?" Ramirez was furious. But then a noise caught his attention. A low murmur of voices. He looked up and saw people in the park watching. Several had their phones raised. They were recording. Snoop's live stream wasn't the only thing being broadcast anymore. He was no longer the only observer. The video went viral on social media. It spread across Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Headlines flooded the internet. Snoop Dogg exposes police bias in Central Park. Social experiment by Snoop Dogg puts NYPD under fire. Millions of people reacted with outrage. The New York Police Department didn't take long to respond. Hours later, as Ramirez sat in the precinct, Captain Monroe entered the room with a cold, unreadable expression. "Officer Ramirez," he said, his voice sharp, "hand over your badge and your gun." The color drained from Ramirez's face. "What? No, this isn't fair." "The department reviewed the footage," Monroe continued. "Your behavior was unacceptable. You're suspended, pending a formal investigation." Ramirez clenched his fists, but there was no way out. With his head lowered, he unpinned his badge, placed it on the desk, and set down his gun. News cameras captured the moment. Days later, at a press conference in Times Square, Snoop Dogg stood before a massive crowd. "This was never about just one officer," he said. "It's about a system that allows this to happen every single day." The crowd erupted in applause. "This isn't over," he continued. "We will keep fighting to make sure everyone is treated with respect." And just like that, what started as a simple social experiment on a park bench in Central Park had grown into something much bigger. The bench where Snoop had sat became a symbol. Someone left a handwritten note there. "Your story matters. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Snoop smiled when he saw the image circulating online. This was just the beginning. The fire had already been lit.